Hello, everybody. It's me, Peter, creator and lead designer of Tales from Elsewhere, and we have a very fun live stream today. I have with me Robby, the creator of Enclave, the role playing game, and it is currently on Kickstarter, and we're here to talk shop about this very unique role playing game. So, Robby, why don't you introduce yourself and just give us the elevator pitch of your game briefly?
Good to see you, everyone. Thank you so much for having me, Peter. Enclave is a diceless game with infinite depth that takes very much the standard squad-based tabletop experience you might be used to and puts it in a completely diceless format, no cards, no random resolution of any kind, and also brings to it a one-shot style scheduling system with continuous characters, which means that we don't have to worry about scheduling issues. So it solves a lot of problems that I see cropping up in the TTRPG industry, even though for me...
I get you. And yeah, what's going to be really interesting today is we're going to talk about that process of making a randomless role-playing game, because some people throw out diceless and they have switched the randomization
Quite.
to tarot cards or playing
Yeah,
cards or
precisely.
whatever it may be. Even
Which is cool.
it's cool.
It's
Yeah,
very cool
Jenga
stuff.
towers, right? Things that add an element of uncertainty, and Enclave has eschewed all of that structure. And so we're going to be digging in today. And I'm just checking chat really quick here. Twice Dead Mage, hello. You didn't miss anything. We're just starting now.
Hey, I see some of my people too. Hey, Connor.
Yeah,
And
awesome.
Solid
Seeing
10s
some
there too.
familiar
Hi, guys.
faces. Glad to have you here. We're going to be hanging out for at least about 1 hour today and just really digging into the design logic that Robby used when making this game. And so what I'd like to start with is oh yeah, lots of comments coming in. No dice were harmed in the production of this video. I can't make
Oh,
any
they were
promises of
harmed
that. Yeah,
already.
they were harmed.
I have a gag reward on my campaign called "Do Not Buy This Die,"
I
which
saw
is a
that.
D12 with all blank faces except for one.
That's
So
great. That's great. So, Enclave RPG, I've had a chance to read through the V1 that is a little outdated, and we will have some of it up on the screen on this stream. This Kickstarter is for not only an updated rule set of the core rules, but also an expansion to it, right?
Mhm.
Do you want to maybe tell us what else is going into this
Yeah,
product specifically?
absolutely. So a couple things for the core rule set. Enclave has a very small core rule set to keep it nice and accessible. It is getting mechanical and wording updates, mostly sourced from my community. We have a very passionate community that's played the game now for about 2 years. Players across, at this point, 5 continents, which is insane. And we're also getting fresh art, fresh graphic design. It's going to be hardcover, but it's still going to be nice and lean to make it very accessible. And then the expansion Aspirant. So the core rule set's called Enclave Advent. The expansion is Enclave Aspirant. And Aspirant is repeating nothing. You're just getting new stuff, all new art, tons and tons of new options for build paths and balance and new mechanics and ways to play. If you're the kind of person who wants to have like a chunky 300-page rule set, Advent plus Aspirant will get you there.
Right. Well, and after reading the V1, right, I found that most of what I was reading was almost universal best practices for being a good host of a tabletop role playing game.
There's a lot
right?
of applicable stuff that's
Right.
cross.
I was reading and I was like, yeah, like that's good advice. I had somebody asking me in another Discord server just the other day. They're like, well, like if there aren't that many rules for the game, like what is in the book? And I was explaining that it's actually just a lot of guidance. And I think that's really smart, because whenever you're trying to introduce players to a new way to play a tabletop role playing game, maybe if they've only played D&D 5th edition as an example, right? Having a lot of really meaty, actionable guidance in the book on how you'd actually sit down and play is very important. And you had a very
Yep.
long, multiple long examples of play that I read through as well, showing which would be several minutes of actual in-game time, right, of people running through it. So
Quite.
it's not like it's a bunch of fluff. It's a lot of how to actually use this
Yep.
and run it at the table. Is how I
Precisely.
would
I can
describe
break it down pretty precisely if you want.
it. Yeah,
Like
please do.
in V1, we have about 10 pages or less, maybe more like 8, of like essential rules like once you know these, you can play. Then we have about 12 pages of classes and, you know, 1 page character creation. Then we have another 15-ish pages of advanced mechanics that, you know, can be there in the background, even if a player doesn't know them. But as you learn the game, you can get more deep into them. But they're not necessary when you're first starting out. And then the rest of the game is about how to set up the game and how to like maximize its structure, which is only a couple pages again, and all the rest is advice.
Right.
Um,
And which there's very good advice as I was
Thank
reading
you.
it,
I
right? It
appreciate
was
it. Yeah.
like solid how to lead improv, how to facilitate action, right, from the players. And I'm
Yep.
seeing some questions now about like, well, how does it actually work? And I guess let's dig in and to the actual structure, because it's not just we're sitting around improving a story together without
No.
structure.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to try to describe it, and you tell me if I got this right.
No, please. I'm very curious.
Yeah, because it's not like you have nothing on a character sheet except like a 5-page backstory you wrote long form, right? You actually do have
Quite the opposite.
quite the
Yeah.
opposite. There are mechanics involved, and actually, you know what? Let me see if I have. So, for example, I've got here on the screen, there are stats in this game, right? It's not
Oh yeah.
there isn't no numbers, but they're not presented numerically. They're presented as a series of ranks, basically. You can be basically plus, double plus, and so forth, that represent how good you are at something. The difference is that these aren't meant to be added to a die roll, but to contextualize how effective your actions in game may be.
Beautifully said. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, good. I got it then.
That's like better than I say it.
Hey. So let me. You even have classes. See if I can.
Oh, yeah.
I obviously am going to stop on the gunslinger because cowboys. But you have classes that have
Very topical for your stuff.
exactly. Yeah, I'm always drawn to this. There are classes that have abilities, that have gear that they start with that do things, and these abilities have. Saying concrete effect is maybe a little bit too strong a word, but they do things in the world and
I'd say concrete is the right word.
Okay,
for
is
them.
concrete
Yeah,
would be
it's concrete. It is flexible to some degree, but you cannot push it too far. Like if
Yeah.
you want to, we have a mechanic for this called energy work. If you want to make the gunslinger's trick shot, like
Mhm.
apply to you spitting and having the spit bounce off of something instead of a
Right.
bullet, yeah, I could believe that. But if you're like, can I use trick shot to like magically throw a fireball? No, that's not what a
Right.
trick shot is. So yeah, it can be bent, but within only a certain degree of logic.
Right. And it's just like any other. Honestly, people see Diceless and they think it won't play like I'm putting big quotes here, normal tabletop role playing game. But the same rhythm of play often happens here.
Yep.
The GM, or the conduit in this case, the GM renders a scene, prompts the players describe what they'd like to do, and then the GM instantiates what they do. Now, in between that second and third step is in most games where die rolls occur, right? I roll my strength check to kick in the door or what have you. Instead, the way it works in this game is the players describe how they'd like to solve that problem, and then in the conversation between the conduit and the players, they look at the relevant stats, abilities that would matter in that situation. How strong are you? And then in the end, the conduit instantiates the result. But they've done so by looking at actual concrete mechanics to inform how that's going to work. But that's
Precisely.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's in removing the die roll and making it primarily a conversation and then adjudication by
Yep.
the GM. So it's still a game, right? You're
Oh yeah.
still playing a game. There's still
It's about structure plus stakes. I would argue
That's a
that
good
that
way
is
to
what
put it.
makes a game is
Yeah.
structure plus stakes.
And you
we
know,
have
you've got a character sheet with like I have trick shot on it, right? You have things that you can do.
we call them buttons in Enclave.
Yeah.
Like you have buttons as like a thing that you can rely on. You can be like, okay, I'm
Yeah.
doing this.
Yeah, exactly. And so, you know, if I'm an illusionist, I can, this is used in the example of play in this V1, you know, they can make phantasms. That's something concrete they can do. They make these illusions of creatures. Now, do they deal damage, right? That's not really the, you know, you don't roll 1d8 plus 4 damage when your illusion bites somebody or something, right? Because it's not how this is meant to work. It's more like myself playing an illusionist, if I want to create a distraction, the efficacy of that will be based on my stats and how invested and vivid a description I'm able to give. Right?
And how make-sensical it is
Yeah,
within the
yeah.
context of the scene. That's the most important thing beyond all else. I'm
Right.
sorry to interrupt you, by the
Oh
way.
no, no, that's great. Right, like I said, we're just gonna be back and forth.
Nice. Okay, go.
Yeah, and so it's still like Phantasm is a paper button I can press to say I can do this, and here's the description of how that is supposed to work. And within that space, I'm realizing my camera is slightly off center. Anyway, within that space, there is a conversation to be had, and you've removed the dice and added in, I would say, a conversation between the GM and the players with guidance on how it's meant to be resolved. But it is more open-ended, significantly so. Just like the OSR community likes to have the idea that you can try anything, right? Theirs is a more concrete, or more grounded in die rolls and such, of course. But the intention is you can't just rely on these paper buttons. You must invest in the scene, not only from, like, you have to pay attention, sure, but you need to be describing and really using what the GM has described to you, right? Like,
It has to make sense.
Yeah, it has to make
Like,
sense. Yeah.
If you were to read something in a book and you were to be like, well, that was stupid. How did that ever work? That's a good litmus test for whether something should work in Enclave. And that's also, when I say structure plus stakes, the stakes is a huge part of this. I feel like oftentimes, especially with diceless games in general, you will find that there's this sense that there is no such thing as a consequence in a diceless game. Like, oh, well, I automatically cruise through everything. Well, that's not true, because in any good story, you're going to have stakes. And that is partially because all of these stories are putting conflict with valid threats in front of the protagonists of them. And as such, in Enclave, you will often come to substantial risk through what can only be kind of described as a logic trap. You're like, I'm stuck. Okay, I'm screwed. I'm eating something. It's just a matter of how bad it is. Let's see if I can try to find a way to mitigate this damage. And one of the things that makes Enclave so exciting in that regard is we don't have HP in Enclave at all. All injuries are entirely intuitive. And so if you're stabbed in the neck, you're dead unless you have a monster of resilience stat.
I just noticed people in chat were asking about, but how does the health work? Because they know, like, is it wounds? Is it like, what is it? So let's maybe drill into that for a moment, because I know that I am all about health abstractions. And so they are narrative consequences, right? You want to maybe like unpack that for us?
Precisely. Yeah. Well, that's exactly what they are. I will say Enclave has a really interesting workaround to this that I think is part of the reason the game's structure works so well. But to dive into what they actually let you do, well, there's a couple of things. First of all, when you see a player leaning into an injury, they're incorporating it into the story. They're incorporating it into their actions. You suddenly say to yourself, oh, they're trying. That's so cool. And you give them more. So if anything, injuries, harm, misfortune, these are a chance. I say misfortune as though there was luck involved. And there is in a certain way, but it's luck of story rather than luck of die. All of these are opportunities for you to rise above and wow your conduit. And the reason for this is because in Enclave, even though I'd say 95+% of all calls are resolved just through common sense, it works the majority of the time. There will always be times when you as a conduit are like, I genuinely don't know what the correct outcome is from like it's what we call a swing situation.
Right.
I will say V1, the document you have open, doesn't describe this well. V2 is going to be doing a lot more with it. And when you are faced with a swing situation as a conduit, you ask yourselves a series of questions. And the first and foremost, and the questions is, okay, how can I give my player the benefit of the doubt? Have they earned the benefit of the doubt based on these three criteria? The first one being, how well did they describe what they're doing? If their player does a beautifully, really nicely done description, not like talking for a year, right? That is a bad description because it takes you a lot of words to get to the same thing, right? But if they do something just really beautifully done and poignant, Or you could ask them to elaborate. You could say, give me more, I need more. That often can do it by itself. Next thing that you would ask yourself is you would ask yourself kind of a storytelling, almost like a storytelling payoff question of, does this result feel commensurate with the effort and investment put in thus far? Is this going to just trivialize what we're doing here? Is this going to be like a complete letdown? Let's avoid that. The last one, though, is I think the most interesting one for Enclave, which is you can ask yourself, how invested has the player been in the session as a person? And you can say, have they been trying? Have they actually been trying? Have they been making the experience better for everyone? Have they been trying to be in character to the best of their abilities? And if so, you give it to them. Right. And because we give people the benefit of the doubt in these swing situations, and obviously it's not like a yes or no thing. There's going to be a whole wide spectrum of partial successes and failures. But because we try to give people the benefit of the doubt, the conduit is on your team to some degree. They don't want you to fail. But the logic of the story will force them to have you fail at times. And because of that, we can actually make Enclave missions very hard, like quite substantially hard. And that is kind of part of where the structure of the game comes in. There are these very, very challenging, in proportion to what you think you're capable of, sessions that are done in one shot, so you don't have to stick to them forever. There's other pieces to this too that address wounds more specifically, but I think part of the reason that we can get away with this is that there is this kind of these degrees of nuance with how an action resolves, including a character getting hurt. I'm sorry if that was very long-winded, but
no, I was following. Well, you said the magic word. You said wounds in there, which always triggers me.
I got your attention back. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, in your system, if a player gets like bitten on the leg by a zombie, we don't necessarily need within Enclave a whole list of what that means. How much damage did I take, right? We know that I'm not walking on that leg now, and that it's probably infected in some way. And then that consequence will lead to another and lead to another. So then we get to I'm just thinking, there's a gap. We have to jump across it. Well, one player can't do that now, realistically, or we'll need help to do so. How will the players think of a solution to this new problem, right? Yep. And so forth.
And then you put more stakes on top of that. Suddenly there's a horde chasing them.
Yeah, right. And there's a time constraint, right? And all of that tension is there, even though you're not having die rolls associated with it.
Precisely.
Right. Yeah, I get you. I'm a big fan of any time player or monster actions have immediate consequences on the story. It's why I'm always harping on hit points when they're used in such a way as simply a meter that you slowly deplete over time, but is mostly irrelevant until the very end.
I'm so
you're
sorry.
Good. I hear a little.
I'm in the middle of a call right now. If you'd like to come say hello, you can. But I can't talk to you right now, bud. Yeah. You want to quickly come say hello? You got to go right out afterwards, though. You want to say hi? Yeah. This man's name is Peter. Do you want to say hi, Peter?
Hello.
Hi, Peter.
Hi. It's nice to meet you.
Right, bub. Please go, and I'd like you to close my door on the way out. Could you please ask Mama the question you had for me?
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Baba?
I said I can't talk right now, bub. Please close the door.
Why do you
Sterling Howell. Come on, I'm in the middle of a call, bud.
Why do you want me to close the door?
Because you're loud. That's why I'd like you to close the door.
I'm not going to.
Thank you very much. Apologies. Dad stuff.
It's all good. This is not the first time I've been on a call today where a child has come on and said hello to me. It happens to me at work all the time, actually. My good buddy has a kid, and she often wants to say,
great.
"Hi, is Peter there?" She'll say, and she'll come in and want to say hi.
Yeah, he's a good boy. He's a great guy.
Yeah.
But I'm so sorry. I completely lost your question.
Oh, no, it's all good. I was talking about consequences of action.
Yeah.
So with health abstractions that rely on long-form attrition, the zombie bites you, you take some damage, and you move on with the scene as if nothing really changed. You just have a meter that has been depleted, right? And I don't like that personally in design.
I'd agree.
And even though like our two games are very different mine has dice, obviously it's a little different, but we're going for more immediate evocation, right? We want something to matter now, not later. To create tension in the scene you're in.
So, in a standard game, you might call it a status effect, right?
Yeah, status effect, debuff, whatever kind of term we want to use. And so I like that your game doesn't use just Like it would be kind of funny if you had this very robust narrative structure, but then you just lose hit points. Like,
Yeah, I know. Wouldn't that be wild?
if I had read that, I'd be
so
like,
funny.
you,
Excuse me?
yeah, like huh, you were
Instead,
so close.
we have like a do-it-yourself debuff builder that's
Right.
completely dependent on the scene. Like, and it gets to these incredibly cool situations. Just a random example from an actual play I did a while ago that's on my small YouTube channel. In the first half of the mission, the gunslinger, pretty high level character,
Yeah.
was captured at gunpoint completely with his pants down, right? He was
Classic.
bound. And so he surrendered. He was like, okay, puts down his gun, and he hits his hands manacled behind his head.
Mhm.
And he has to do the rest of the mission with his hands like that. They never got him out.
That's great.
And first of all, that's so much more interesting than just getting shot.
Oh,
so
100%.
much more interesting. Second of all, he was turbo screwed unless he thought of some brilliant moves, which he did. He rose to the occasion because he's a very experienced, very talented player.
Sure.
And then even after he gets out of the scene, still with his hands like this, he's like, how am I going to help my team? That's the first thought in his mind.
That's great.
How am I going to contribute to the goddamn mission now? It's wildly exciting to me. And it just makes it so that every time you play, there is zero way of predicting what is going to happen.
Right. I get you. And I'm going to catch up on a couple comments here that were relevant.
Yeah, please.
So we had Solid 10 D&D saying they're excited to play Enclave. They love crunchy mechanics, but the heavy roleplay aspect fits well. And I'm
excited
with you.
to see you too, Solid 10.
And so, like what I'm a big proponent of getting outside of your comfort zone as a designer, right? Because that's a big thing we're talking about here is design logic. So if, say, you're making a game that's heavily based in, say, Pathfinder 2nd Edition, like that's your touch point, right? Which is the definition of a crunchy game.
Yeah.
It's
props
still,
to him.
Yeah. No, like I said, all games are valid, right? It still would behoove that designer to play a session of Enclave, to play a Brindlewood Bay, right? Play a granny solving mysteries in New England for a night. And there might be things you can learn that would be applied in your crunchy game too, right? There's things, and if you're playing
fully agree,
right? It's about learning these different things because you'll find underneath these games maybe a really good inspiration point to incorporate.
Yep, I'd agree.
Yeah, definitely. Let's see. We had, what is it like? So Carl, hey Carl, by the way, what is it like in long-term play? Oh, thanks for staying up late, Carl. By the way, I know it's very late where you are. I can see this working well episodically for one-shots. This is actually specifically addressed in Enclave as far as session and campaign structure. I happen to know.
Yep.
So I'll let Robby, why don't you give us the pitch of how the game rhythm is meant to be played?
So the game is designed for one-shots with continuous characters. Your characters level and progress after every single session. Every session is a self-contained story. This means that you can play with new people every single time. You can play with different characters every time, or just do the same ones over and over again. Both work. It's very easy to design around characters of multiple different levels. So easy that you barely even notice it. We actually, in Aspirant, the upcoming expansion, are including explicit rules. We just just unlocked the stretch goal for this.
Oh, awesome.
Explicit rules for long form play that preserves the episodic structure. The idea is it's a long form story, and every single episode of it is its own self-contained mission. And that means you can bring different characters to every single chapter of the story, which means that more people, more characters can get involved with it, or you can just do the same people every time, but it still retains Enclave's strengths. And that strength is scheduling. Scheduling kills RPGs. And I've learned that I did not used to think that was a strength of Enclave. Over time, I have learned how valuable it is. And how important it is. And it's part of the reason that it's a great game for pickup games. That's why our Discord works well. We have pickup games that you can get together in 15 minutes rather than 25 billion years of planning and schedule wrangling and then commitment for 10 sessions. The other quick thing I wanted to mention is another thing that makes the one-shot session so important is that at the beginning of every session, so in the story of the game, you're an agent of the organization, the Enclave, like an interdimensional mercenary company that sends you out on missions all across an infinite world. The start of every session begins with you teleporting onto mission. No travel time. You're given a mission statement, do this, you're out. Once you finish the mission, succeed or fail, your agent's Enclave badge will ping. You have to tap the badge.
Fun.
This is available
That's
on
cool.
Kickstarter.
Yeah.
And you teleport back to HQ. If an ally is incapacitated, you have to tap them out for them.
Classic. Yeah.
However, once you get back to HQ, you are refreshed in full instantly, fully healed, all your gear restored, everything back to normal.
Right.
But if you die, you're dead. And so we have this hard reset point and this cutoff between dead and alive, which is part of the reason that Enclave is so intense. And the no HP works really well. You can have your guts torn out and be bleeding out, but if in that last critical minute of you dying, your team can finish the mission, you're out and you're good.
That's fun.
It's so intense because of that.
Yeah.
And it means that we can have this really scary, wow, I could die at any moment model while still having death being comparatively rare.
Yeah, I like that. Well, because the moment-to-moment gameplay is also full of consequence, but not necessarily rug pulls, as I've heard them described. So that's the whole, oops, you didn't check for traps here, now you're dead because you fell on the super tetanus spikes in White Plume Mountain. That's in I believe it's called super tetanus.
Did you make that up?
I did not make this up.
Oh my God.
I believe it is in White Plume Mountain, which is a fairly old D&D adventure. There is a spike trap, and the spikes literally have super tetanus on it or something like that. It kills you super fast, and it's because a lot of old school D&D dungeons were murder machines. They were meat grinders you throw characters into.
We actually have that in Enclave too, by the way. In the expansion, there's an option to have super scary missions that are meant to have a very low rate of survival.
Nice.
And we used to do this thing back in the day where you would make fresh characters and just throw them into a meat grinder. And if they survived, you're attached to them forever,
Yeah, that's funny. Oh, I saw Mono Makes is in the chat right now. He's an incredibly talented dice maker. And he came in and said, no dice.
Again, go check out Do Not Buy This Die on the campaign page.
Yeah. Anyway, I just wanted to shout him out. He makes gorgeous dice.
Nice.
They're not there in my
I look forward to seeing your stuff, Mono.
Yeah, he's on. I'm not here to pitch his stuff. I just think he makes gorgeous dice.
Of course. Please.
He makes high visibility dice that I really liked as my old man eyes melt with really big clear numbers on them. I really like them. Anyway, just let's see here. What else we got here in chat? Oh, I saw Stephanie Plays Games in here. Awesome. Glad you could make it, Stephanie. That's somebody I want to play in a session with of this game, or that she would be really fun to play in a session with. Anyway, we'll talk later about that. Okay, so what I wanted to drill into now, we've gotten a lot of background on the game. We've got kind of a high-level understanding. So I'd like to talk a little bit about the design trail of blood you had to walk to get it to where it is now, right? So when you first were thinking of making your own role-playing game, did it start out diceless or without any randomization, or was there a different starting point you had? Kind of tell us about the inciting time of this game.
I'll make an unofficial bet with you. I'll bet you an ice cream or something like that I have the weirdest designer backstory you've ever heard.
Hit me with it. Let's see.
Sure. So I made my first diceless games when I was in elementary school. Mm-hmm. I'll get to why in a second, but I made my first, I'd say, good games when I was about 14. I got my first gig as a paid professional game host when I was 16, only hosting my own diceless games. I learned what a tabletop role-playing game was when I was 18.
Okay, that is very unique. I think I owe you an ice cream for that. Yeah.
And I learned what D&D was when I was about that age as well. I'd heard the word, right? But I was just like, it's some pop culture thing I don't understand. And then I learned, I was like, those bastards have been stealing my idea for 40 years at the tender age of 18. Yeah. And so I realized that I had completely fluked into this gigantic, beautiful ecosystem that had existed forever. And I was like, oh, well, oopsie. Because I had started, like so many kids like me who grew up in the late 90s and early 2000s, I had screen time restrictions. And I was acting out video games to get around screen time restrictions. And that evolved into trying to make my own acted video games. And then that evolved into me being like, well, why does it have to be like a video game at all? It can just kind of be its own thing, like a story game, right?
Right.
And they were my life in high school before I learned what a TTRPG was. I was just constantly hosting. I think I probably spent 3 to 4 hours a day on average through all of high school, hosting or working on games, mostly hosting. And I made like okay money doing it in high school and college, especially for like kids with families, because they'd be like, you're saying that this is a way to get them to not be on their phone?
Yeah.
Like, hell yeah, we'll do it. And I did after school programs, I did all this. And when I finally came to the industry, I was like, hey guys, I've been doing this for such a long time. Look at this cool thing. People are like, what are you smoking? This is stupid. Like, this doesn't work at all. The industry was very hostile to the idea of diceless, especially because, frankly, I was very green. I came in knowing freaking nothing. I hadn't done my research on what was out there already. And so I spent the next couple of years being kind of bitter for a little bit, and then like really trying to knuckle down and do the research and learn what was out there. I read dozens of systems, but I have never played another system in my life, nor have I ever been a player of my own games. I have only hosted, and I have hosted probably over 2,000 sessions of Enclave at this point.
We may have to change that, Robby.
I have actually, I lie. I've played one game once. I played at Necronomicon 2024. I played on the live stream debut of Pirate Borg Down Among the Dead, hosted by Luke Stratton.
That's awesome.
That's the one time I played. And I was like, okay, for you, Luke, I will play a game. I will break my... But now it's kind of like a point of stubborn pride. Like, I know the games really well, but yeah, I don't know. I prefer hosting. I really prefer it.
That's so interesting. Yeah, it was years. I started back many years ago in the hobby. And the only way I got to play was by running myself when I started out, just because none of my friends really wanted to run. And so I spent the first several years primarily just being a GM or a DM, because I was playing 3rd edition D&D at the time. But yeah, I came to it late. What I say, I found out about it in high school as well. I'm just a little older. And so, but yeah, I missed out on the first 20 years or something like that of the hobby, because it's, been around for many, many years. But that's a really interesting story. So yeah, that's really fascinating.
Weird as hell, right?
Yeah, it's definitely one of the weirder ones to have already gotten into it.
Here's the wacky thing, right? I was inspired by video games early on, and so that's part of the reason Enclave is not just a pure freeform flowy thing. No, it actually has structure because of my inspiration from getting.
What
Enclave
video games
started
would you
as
say?
a Diablo 2. That was the game, which is inspired by D&D. And so I am, by like 2 steps removed, still a D&D.
I knew I liked you. Diablo 2 is a great source of inspiration.
It's an amazing game. I was obsessed with that game. And I had this, at the age of about, again, 16-ish, I had the name Enclave like waltz into my brain. And I was like,
oh, wow.
Ooh, I got to do something with this. And it took me like 3 years to get it to a point where it was play testable. And then I had... Because I've been working on Enclave for over 12 years now. We just celebrated our 12th anniversary.
That's awesome.
But I had this. No, thank you. It was awesome. We had a really robust home game with that. I think over 200 people tried it with no written rule set, entirely oral tradition, except the classes, which I did write down.
Right.
And so I have content for days for Enclave now that I'm actually publishing it, just trying to do it like a little bit at a time.
Well, that's one of the challenges, though, in making a product, is you have to take your years of experience of running the game and write that as a set of instructions, guidance for new players.
It's so hard.
It's very hard, right? It's very
hard. I sucked at it. I sucked so bad.
Yeah, that's been a challenge for me as well. And honestly, like, this YouTube channel is a way for me to work out and codify some of those things, because I make videos out of them, right?
Having watched your content, I can see it. Like
yeah, like I'm sometimes I'm working it out in real time as I record the video, but it's turning that into something you can communicate to somebody else, and that's very difficult, especially when it's second nature. I'm sure it's second nature to you now to run your own game.
How do you explain how to breathe? Like, I don't know.
Like, it's some folks have asked me, just as an example, like, how do I balance an encounter? And I'm like, balance? Like, for D&D as an example, like, I don't bother with CR or encounter, like all these like encounter building mathematical calculations. That's useless to me. Like it's not just, I don't need it now, because I understand, just 'cause I've been playing D&D for so long. And that's why with my game, There are no levels either. Like balance is not something you ask of the system. It's
Yep.
not like, just like with honestly, I see a lot of that DNA in Enclave as well, where you're not asking, is this a balanced encounter? It's, is this an interesting challenge? Right? That's
Yeah,
the
precisely.
better question to
Enemies
ask.
are puzzles. That is
Yeah.
all they are.
Yeah.
Enemies are puzzles that are more likely to hurt you.
Right.
Um,
Yeah. Puzzles with consequence, dire
yeah.
consequence. Yeah. So I'm really with you on that. Like, I can see that even though our games are very different, there's some very shared ideology here on
Absolutely.
how we want the experiences to be at the table. And I just
Mhm.
saw a question from Carl. It says, is there a guiding principle or unwritten rule to Enclave? There's a lot of rules, as in like guidance in the book itself. This is, I'm like I said this at the start, I'm gonna say it again. I am looking at the V1. This is an outdated rule book, big asterisks here. The Kickstarter has an updated one. But if I
I can
go,
throw out a couple of like unwritten design principles for Enclave if that's interesting. Like
yeah, just
maybe
really
what was
quick,
that? Yeah.
I want to point
Oh,
something
please.
out that
Yeah.
is really cool. So this even has a section, Carl, on guidance for the players, how to be a player, right? How to approach this structure, because it's not one where you can just sit there and hit paper buttons and roll dice. It's providing you very clear guidance, a couple pages of this on the way to approach playing the game. Similarly with a conduit, it then gives all this guidance on how to actually adjudicate and run a game. So there's tons of guidance. It's not just make it up as you go, like kind of thing. There is a, how to kind of put this? It tries to teach you the system, the way to play the game as the designer has intended, if that makes sense.
Well, hopefully in a way that can also help out other stuff as well and be like, some maybe not universally applicable, but like broadly applicable.
Oh
In terms
yeah.
of like unspoken design principles behind Enclave, there's quite a few actually that I think are interesting, but I won't blab about them too much. I'll just stick with like one or two. The best thing I can contextualize is if in other games balance comes from numerical calculation and you like running the numbers. In Enclave, it comes from word choice.
Hmm.
And so when I'm rebalancing classes and I'm rebalancing mechanics, it's about rewording them in a way that makes it more likely to work as intended when someone does it. Because if
Gotcha.
someone is following the book, and there's a bunch of different people who have wildly different interpretations of how one thing works, that means I did a crappy job of describing it. And so, and then as another example, let's say everyone's following the book and everyone is doing it about the same, but it's cracked. Then just reword it to make it less cracked.
Right.
That's how we design an Enclave. Instead of numbers, we use words. Is the best way I can describe it.
Yeah, no, that makes
Hopefully, that's
sense.
useful and interesting.
Yeah, well, and I see. And by the way, if people do have questions, do put them in
Yeah, I want to hear
the
them.
chat. I see one from Matt Ricks. I'm going to come back to that in just one second. But BGD
Mhm.
said, "Math isn't sacred, but it can be an extremely powerful tool if a GM chooses to employ it." And I agree with that. A big
I love
reason,
math, actually.
yeah,
I genuinely do.
a big reason I have eschewed using challenge ratings and all these calculators in a game like D&D is because I don't need them anymore. It's not that the math isn't useful, it's that at this point I grok the entirety of a stat block more effectively than the challenge rating is going to articulate, because the challenge rating is often a guess. So like I'm not going to derail this conversation too much, but like the Banshee in pretty much 5th edition and 2024 rules has always been wacky when it comes to its challenge rating, because it's a binary enemy. It either like one shots the whole party or does nothing. And so how do you quantify that challenge rating wise? I think it's actually a very poorly designed enemy. Anyway, we did have a question though, which was hard question for Robby. What did you try and just didn't work for a diceless game, no matter how much you wanted to work? Okay, yeah. So like, what was something you were trying to make work in Enclave, but it never really got to a satisfactory point, and maybe you had to cut it because it just wasn't working? You have anything like that?
That's a really interesting question.
Right?
So
It's a good
again, the
question.
game has a lot of content that I just haven't published yet because it's either way too advanced and I want to like build to it, or I just had to prioritize other stuff sooner.
Hmm.
Like for context, in Aspirant, we're going to have 12 classes. We have also 3 additional ones as like exclusive special classes from like collabs with other people, stuff like that.
Sure.
Um, in Enclave's proto past, when it's in, it's pre-alpha, right, with this no written rule set stuff, we had 130, and they were completely original.
That's great.
And we had plans for, I shit you not, 300 more.
Wow.
So I have infinite content. But the wonderful thing about Enclave is I have kind of yet to bump up against a true design roadblock with Enclave. I'd say that the closest I can think is you should never mandate a prop in Enclave. Like, even though it would be tempting to say this is a playing card based class and you should have a deck of playing cards, don't do it.
I see. Yeah, you don't want the game to suddenly ground itself in a physical
And I did try that, by the way. I did try to be like, what if we actually had, I even at one point was like, let's make a gambler class that actually uses a die. Ha ha ha. Isn't that funny? It just doesn't work.
That's a good example then of kind of what the question was, right? It's, you were trying to bring in some trad structures, some of these traditional structures, for the novelty maybe, right? Because it's fun if it's a gambler. But it's
exactly.
It just doesn't fit.
Pure
right?
novelty.
Yeah.
And part of it is that another of Enclave's strengths is that for a while I used the tagline, a tableless role-playing game, because I thought it was cute. It turns out that it just makes people be like, what? It's eye-catching, at least. But part of the reason I went with that is I have played it in the car. I have played it on a plane. I have played it while swimming once. That was very memorable.
Almost a Dr. Seuss book thing.
Yes. Can you play it on a plane? Can you play it on a train? I have read that book quite a few times recently. And so that you lose that as soon as you mandate that. Oh, one more thing. Endless tables. I could strangle whoever came up with the concept of endless tables. Just doesn't work. I at one point was trying to make ones that were really complicated. Oh, pick this modular thing from this table, mix it with this modular thing. It ruins it.
Right. You're then grounding it once again in too rigid a structure for the design goals of this game.
You need structure. You desperately need structure, because without structure, stakes are almost impossible. But as soon as you get too involved with the bloody tables and with just overly structured stuff in general, you start to get a feel for what works.
You don't want the players to see. I have like a character sheet. So you don't want because too much structure, the players end up playing here, down here on the table on their sheet, right, in their dice tray, rather than here in the shared space of the game. And Enclave is attempting to keep people up here, and then they reference whether they're plus or double plus in vitality or whatever it may be, right?
Once you play like 5 times with the same character, you don't need to look at the sheet. Right, often you can do it faster.
Right, you just remember what you're good at, right? Because you also made the character, right?
And even as a conduit, you could be like, oh, what's your might? You have like what, 2 pluses? Oh, I have 1 plus. Oh, okay, yeah, cool.
Yeah,
because it's super easy.
Very simple in that way. It's not a lot of mental overhead. So we have a question here.
Thanks, Matt Ricks. That was a good question.
Yeah, that was a really good question. That's a good. I'll have to remember that to ask any future designer that I may have on stream, because that's just a really good question. So somebody was asking, Robby, have you ever played Amber, the role-playing game? And I think we know the answer is no, because you haven't played it.
No, but I know it.
Yeah, so it was asking, what's compare Enclave and Amber? And my question is, have you read the 9 Princes of Amber books at all?
No, I have not read the originals.
Okay. Though not a lot of people have.
Well, although they are legendary by every review I've heard. Enclave, Enclave and Amber are like long lost siblings. I actually got to bring Enclave to an online Amber convention called TierCon. There is still a big cult following for the game. They are a lovely, welcoming community. And they took to Enclave, fish to water. Nice. However, every single one of them agreed it's completely different, wildly different approach to dicelessness. Amber is a really cool game. I would go so far as to say it's one of the most underrated games of all time. Legendary game. But if I may be a little saucy to Amber for a second.
We could be saucy here on stream. It's not like Amber, we're streaming live and for posterity forever. Yeah.
I find, as a person who only does diceless design, that Amber uses dicelessness, I feel like, more as a novelty, where it's like, look at what I can do even without dice. Whereas Enclave is like, we just don't use dice. Now that said, Amber has a lot of fascinating ideas. The bidding system is so cool. Amber has a lot of true crunch to it,
Yes.
whereas almost all of Enclave's crunch is optional. Like you just buy into whatever advanced mechanics you want, and the base mechanics are wildly easy. Amber's very dense, and it's a very much an acquired taste to some degree. I'd say especially because of just the sheer amount of commitment. It's a beefy book, takes a lot of time to play, but it's really cool, and it tells stories in a way that I don't think any other system quite can.
I get you.
Join their online communities. They are wonderful people. And we have a bunch of Amber people who now play Enclave and have been very supportive of the game.
That's great. Well, yeah, because the diceless or low randomization, I'm hearing more and more about these over time. Now, Amber is not a new game, of course.
No,
but
83,
right?
I want to say.
And I'm seeing more people bringing up these sort of atypical resolution system these days, which I think is very good. Because there's no sacred rules that you must have to make a tabletop role-playing game.
Well, you'd say that.
Oh, yeah. Well, I know
comments
that,
on meta ads would disagree with you.
I was going to say, like, going on Reddit, you'll hear something different, maybe. But
yeah.
Oh, and I want to make sure I don't miss.
Also, I saw a comment from Twice Dead Mage.
I was going to say, yeah, we missed. I missed Twice Dead Mage prep. I'll let you talk, Robby, about that.
I can be really quick. I will quote a longtime player who I reference on my Kickstarter page. Enclave is the easiest game to host that you will ever play. It is wildly easy to host, and as such, wildly easy to prep. I have a ton of experience in the game. I can prep a full session after receiving the character sheets and what we call the focus words. I can prep a session in 2 minutes, and we can be playing in 2 minutes. Now, if you're brand new to conduiting, you're brand new to the game, I'd give yourself anywhere between a couple days and an hour, depending on your taste. You can do it faster for sure, but I have seen people who started playing about 2 years ago have conduited, couple, like maybe 24 times, something like that.
Sure.
Who can pull off the 2-minute trick?
Right. Well, because you're not prepping numbers. You're not prepping encounter sheets with large stat blocks, right? You probably are mostly prepping the path that the players start on, and then being ready to adapt as that evolves, right? Like, because you're not writing a complete story. The whole point is there's a mission they have to accomplish. There's a goal. You need basically need something like that, and then.
Do you want to see my mission from a recent session?
Yeah.
Here are some mission notes that I took from a session quite recently. I'll give you a couple examples. Pardon? Here's one.
Nice.
Everything that I'm not covering, that's notes from one session.
Right.
Here's a chunkier one. That's another session. That's another session.
Right. Yeah, it's like I've started a session sometimes in a system I'm really comfortable with. Just a couple bullet points. It's like I'm ready to go. Like I don't need to look up a goblin stat block again. Let's just go.
Yeah, so that's the summary for prep. Wildly fast. I'd say if you're talking about meaty TTRPGs with like long form progression and depth, like we're not just a fluffy one shot thing. Among those, Enclave is the fastest prep you will find and the easiest.
Right. Because what you're not having to account for is the engine running outside of your control, right?
Precisely.
As in, you can't. I'm just going to use D&D as an example, just because it's very widely known. So you can't think like, oh, what's cool? This one demon I saw a picture of. I'm going to have them fight that demon, and they're like level 1, but you thought it would be cool. And if you just let the system run, the monster kills everybody, right? It's not an enjoyable experience because it's not how the game is structured, right? You need to take into account a lot of mechanics and numbers to create something that will run correctly in the rule system. So I get you. Oh, that's an interesting question Mono makes. So he's asking, do you think that there's basically a challenge that you've had to overcome by not being a player as frequently when creating player experiences?
That's a great question.
Right? It's interesting.
I'd say that if anything, it's a strength, but it's a very weird one. And I will say I'm a weird designer in general. If I were never talking with my players ever, I would agree with you. But not only do I talk with them constantly, but I can see their faces. And I can see their experiences that work. And also I talk to them constantly about the sessions they've had with other people. When I am designing and when I'm rebalancing stuff, I community source everything. and say, what do you guys like? Like when we were doing rebalancing for V2, I ran probably 10 hours worth of like Discord voice calls being like, what do you guys like? What's working? What's
Right.
not working?
So yeah, harvesting
So
those player
yeah,
experiences. Yeah.
if I were playing with them through like a tin can to the wall, then yeah, I'd agree with you. That would be a serious freaking problem. But fortunately, I have a really awesome ecosystem of people around me,
Right.
who are very generous with their time and feedback. Yeah, I know that some designers kind of hermit themselves, and I definitely don't. I'm very like in the trenches, I suppose. I think that the other thing to it that makes it kind of a weird strength is if I were a player, I think it would bias me. And I think it would bias me towards my preferred play style and bias me against things I am personally bad at. Um, Whereas from my current perspective, I can kind of take a wider slice without letting my own opinions get involved, which also ties into kind of my strange, almost top-down approach to design.
Yeah.
When I make a class, I come up with the names of everything first. And if I can't find a good name, I don't use the mechanic ever.
Nice. Yeah.
And that's completely backwards. Like no one does it that way, probably
Right.
because it's stupid. But for me, it works, and
Yeah.
I can't quite put a word to it. So and maybe my weird penchant for only hosting is in a similar direction.
Yeah. No, I'm following you. I'm following you. Oh, and Twice Dead, I see you were saying how you did not like the diceless game Wander Home. I haven't read that
Oh
one.
goodness!
But that's what's
Can I be saucy again?
yeah, I was gonna say one
You
thing
first,
on
please.
that. Yeah, that diceless games are not my preferred way to play either. I like rolling dice, but that doesn't
Oh yeah,
mean, right, we're not
lots of people.
here, right, it's about learning and appreciating all these different things. Like um I I can find the joy in pretty much any role playing game because I just
Mm.
like to sit with people and like play pretend and you know kill some goblins or something. I don't know, right? I find that all very fun, even though my preferred like structure is like these action horror tabletop role playing games. Doesn't mean I didn't have a blast playing Brindlewood Bay, role playing a granny solving mystery, right? Like all of that is cool, but in particular, what I find interesting when I don't like a genre of role playing game is really digging into what about that structure I don't like, because that's a good lesson, right? Like,
I
what
agree.
don't I like about this experience that it's facilitating, and how can I incorporate that knowledge into what I'm designing, right?
Couldn't
To
agree
avoid
more.
it, right? So it's a
Yep.
very good point. So anyway, yeah, be
Well,
saucy.
that's
Uh,
kind of my issue with Wanderhome, right? Wanderhome has beautiful art. I
hmm,
love the aesthetic. I love it. But remember, I was talking about structure and stakes.
yeah,
There aren't stakes.
hmm,
Like, I'm sure that committed Wanderhome people would either be like, "No, you're wrong," or would be like, "Well, but it doesn't need stakes." To me, I don't find that in any way compelling. Like I know that the idea is like, oh, it's cozy. I hear that word a lot, cozy. If I wanted cozy, I would hang out with my kids, right? Like
yeah. Like I'd go read a book and drink some hot cocoa
I
or something.
I wouldn't get four of my closest friends together and inconvenience them for an evening. Like, and again, that's rude because it's a beautiful game. And it's really cute and
Yeah,
lovely art, and the designer put a ton of passion into it. I just don't find it to be a compelling game. I would love to see a graphic novel.
I get you. Yeah. Well, and yeah, same. Like if I want a cozy experience, that's not what games usually. I'm not looking for in games.
Quite, yes.
I've played a couple very wonderful cozy board games. Like Tokaido is gorgeous, but it is competitive at the same time.
Yeah,
Like there is a
exactly.
winner in that game. But like I don't like playing cozy video games as much either.
Yeah,
Um,
stakesless stuff.
yeah,
Just
I like tension, and it's why I'm going to circle back to an earlier conversation. Why focusing on the idea of a one shot is really good for teaching people how to build tension,
I'd agree.
because if you only have this one evening to make it all matter, right? You
Hmm.
want to lean in to cutting out the stuff that isn't fun or isn't engaging, that you might,
Precisely.
right? The fluff. This was not in I was running some cipher system for role playing, or sorry, for superheroes. And Cipher isn't diceless, but the GM rolls no dice. The GM just sets difficulties and such, and then the players
Hmm.
roll dice. And the way I structured it was there were 4 players, each of which would have a 4 session arc, but each session is one issue of a comic book, like one complete story that then all
Yeah.
connects
Oh yeah.
together. And by honing in on each session being like one complete story, those 16 sessions ended up being like a super robust in total, like like if those were turned into a comic book series, like you'd be a graphic novel, right? But
Yeah, exactly.
I was really just thinking about what would be cool this session.
Yep.
Right. What would matter now?
Get through that session and you're good.
Yeah. And you string together maybe a few if you want some sort of overarching thing, but that doesn't change that what matters in each session is immediately consequential, right?
Quite.
All right, let me catch up on some comments here really quick.
There's so many things to jump into.
Yeah, no, I'm glad we have lots of people asking questions.
I see one from Michael McGuire. Is there an aspect of diceless that really doesn't work? From my experience, because again, remember, Amber's wildly different diceless, Wanderhome's wildly different diceless. For me, for what I do for Enclave specifically, there's some stuff that just does not freaking work. One of them is that like real world prop thing. Don't do it.
Yeah.
just don't. Another thing that I'd say just does not work is what I would call overtly antagonistic mechanics. The conduit in Enclave is on the player's team. Like they are rude. You need to be rooting for the player, even though you need to also present them with challenge and threat and all this stuff in order for it to qualify as a story. And so because of that, if you have a mechanic that is overtly competitive between the conduit and the players, especially, no, it destroys everything, especially the trust that is established between the two as equal parts in the story.
Yeah, because it's absolutely you're good. You're good.
I'm so sorry.
No, you're all right. I will talk to
if you wouldn't mind. Yeah, you can talk to the.
You're good. I'll vamp.
I'll be right the hell back.
So to build off what Robby was saying, right, this is the definition of a high trust game, obviously, right? And I know I have a video a while ago about high trust versus low trust, and high trust isn't better than low trust, of course. But in this sort of game, the players have to fully commit to the idea.
Can I say hi?
Hello? Probably can't hear me. Yeah. The players have to fully commit to the idea that the GM, the conduit, isn't out to screw them over, right? If there's that breakdown, it won't really work. And so that's an important wrinkle.
Pardon me? That was the 2-year-old.
You are all good, my friend. So something that to kind of keep talking about what Michael's question was about.
Yeah, please.
So this is less about diceless and more about more story-focused games or narrative-first games, we can say, which it's a loose term, but bear with me, everybody.
Sure.
When something that these sort of games will limit is how much the players who want to pore over spell lists and ability trees, like there's players that want to do basically between session optimization.
Yes,
right?
we have that too.
Right.
Huge thing.
So there's an amount of build craft that there's why people flock to Pathfinder 2nd edition. And like me back in 3.5 edition days where I had stacks and stacks of books and I want to make a character, time to pour over a couple thousand pages and find the most broken, permutations. Combo of abilities, because that's how you play the game, is by taking all of this homework and building a machine and then blasting goblins with it effectively, right? Where that sort of, I'll describe system mastery, which isn't a bad thing, won't get you as far in Enclave, because system mastery in Enclave is understanding how to engage with the scene with the conduit, right? It's you have a build, you have abilities, but it's like, and you do build a character and like distribute stats. But you can't just rely on the stats to win you the game, because you made a build where your plus to hit with your spells is so high that you'll always land them. Right. Like you can't do that. That's not about optimization in that same way. Right.
Precisely. I'd say in Enclave, you can't win through your build.
Yeah.
You cannot. You can only win by engaging with the game, but your build can determine a lot. It will determine your play style, can determine the amount of fun you have. Like people do better with certain builds.
Right. What approaches to problem solving will be most likely to succeed
Yeah.
for you, right? Yeah. Yeah.
And so for the people who like homework, like that's why we have, the 130 classes,
Yeah.
because in Aspirant, again, we only have 12 classes, but every class, 6 unique abilities, not 3, 12 unique gear pieces, not 6. They can be customized in more ways. You can get everything cross class, unbelievable
Yeah.
amounts of customization, build paths for people who want to like theory craft. You have that for days, but it won't make you win.
Right.
Like,
Yeah. It's not an engine that then runs on its own, so to speak.
Mm.
Oh, and Carl says, question, how do you manage player expectation, especially for new players coming from lower trust games?
Totally.
That's a good
So
question. I'll
this
take
is
that.
something that I think is very much a conduit to conduit perspective. I kind of like specialize in onboarding new people because I'm the one who's going out to conventions and stuff like that. And so let's say someone's coming in, and you can usually tell someone's like, okay, let's see what this stupid thing's about. And the best way to do it is purely socially. You say, okay, what do you want to do from here? They're like, I don't know, I hit it, right? You say, okay,
I walk up and I
let's
hit it with
start.
my sword.
How? And they're like, what do you mean how? Well, just talk me through it. Like, are you stabbing? Are you like going up and like tapping it lightly with the flat? No, obviously I'm slashing. Okay, slashing. Great start. How? Up overhead chop? We're going side thing. You're okay. I'm dancing in and I'm try to nick at the heels.
Right,
Awesome.
you're kind of
Excellent.
pulling,
You're,
yeah, like come
you're
on, yeah.
drawing them in, and then you're positively reinforcing it when they actually do the thing. And so it sounds kind of rude, but it's very similar to working with kids. Very, very similar.
I get you. Yeah.
And yeah, like it's all about keeping your energy up, not taking it personally. They have a right to be skeptical. It's weird. And reinforcing what's working.
I get
this
you.
is not something I expect every conduit to do. Just like if you're playing with someone, they're obviously like reluctant, don't bother. Just be like, hey, don't worry. We'll do what you want to do next time, maybe. That's fine. That's no problem with that. But if you are going after it, the best thing that you can possibly do is like this social reinforcement.
Right.
There's been so many people who have come in skeptical and been like, okay, that was actually fun. And a lot of it just comes down to play experience and being pleasant because, to quote a random article that the beautifully brilliant channel, The Old Warlock, sourced from like the 70s, a TTRPG session is a social encounter first and foremost. It's a social event,
Right.
and you should behave yourself accordingly.
Right.
Be polite, be enjoyable, make people want to be there. And that's true for all games.
Yeah, and I have definitely had the opposite of that in my many years doing convention play and organized play, where I have sat down at a table and like the person running this game clearly doesn't want to be here.
Yeah, exactly. So why are you there?
Yeah,
like,
it doesn't matter what system I'm playing in. That is not going to be a fun session. That's really funny. Let's see. Let's catch up. We got lots of comments here.
Mhm.
Oh,
Thank you guys for the great questions, by the way. These are awesome.
These are really good questions. So, Monomake, so how much is your diceless approach similar to Free Kriegspiel type games? Are you familiar with that
Yes,
as well?
I do know Free Kriegspiel. I'd say that Free Kriegspiel and like Nordic LARP, I guess you could call it, is some of the closest stuff you'll find to Enclave. There's differences for sure. I'd say Enclave leans more gamey. You can kind of feel the video game.
I see that. Yeah,
elements,
I see what you're saying.
But if you like one, you'll probably like the other.
Yeah, you're painting with a similar palette here. Yeah, you're still in that space together, even if you're in different like specifics within it. Yeah,
and that's kind of like how people say, "Well, how is it different from LARP?" And I was like, "Oh God, let me count the ways. Like, there's a billion ways."
Yeah, very
LARP is
different.
Completely different beast. That said, a lot of LARP people do like us, right? Whereas something like Free Kriegspiel or like Nordic LARP specifically, that's a lot chiller, frankly, and it is more analogous to tabletop. I'd say that I am, even though I think that Enclave is different enough from other tabletop games that I kind of wish I could call it something else. I am close enough. And there's not really another demographic out there. There's not really another audience out there that I can bundle myself in under instead. So,
I know what you mean.
You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I'm with you. You sometimes just have to to hitch your wagon right to the right little wagon train moving along sometimes the expediency of communicating it to an audience, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's easier to say diceless TTRPG than gamified Nordic LARP, I guess.
yeah, it gets a little funky. Well, and the devil's in the details, right? There's a lot of nuance in the differences between these systems, even within a genre, right? Like, for example, Enclave's differences with Amber, right? These are both diceless, very, very much creating an interesting story together kind of games, but they're also wildly different. Actually,
Extremely
right?
different.
So different.
Kind of couldn't be more different. Like,
yeah,
it would be, I think, a good analog between Enclave and Amber would be something like Pathfinder 2E. I'm trying to think of like a charitable analogy.
it's tricky,
Like,
right?
yeah, it would be like comparing Pathfinder 2E and Fate, right?
Okay, I get you.
Loose analogy,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, they're that different. It's funny, one of the community members, I don't think he was in this stream, this guy named Six, he hasn't played my game, hasn't read it yet, or he actually just did like today. I think he ran a session, but he had described it as Cowboy Mothership in some other chat, and I thought, you know what? That's actually a pretty good way to pitch my game, even though it doesn't play like Mothership, right? But you know what? I think that gets people 90% of the way there to the type of evocation. Because going back to that onboarding question, when you're having people play in a way they may not be used to, sometimes approximating something like that can really help them get on board. Because in a game like Mothership, it is about survival, not victory, right?
Yeah.
And that's how I've pitched like my game. The goal for people who come from like a D&D like game, in D&D, the goal is to be victorious overall, right? You will become heroes of legend. This is our story that we are forging, and it's the one of our success overall, right? It's heroic fantasy in that way. And so when people have come to play my game, it's about articulating to them, this is about you making it to the next sunrise. Like, this is about you just surviving the night now. Forget all about an epic story of what will happen. You may not see the next day. Prioritize that now, right? It's a communication. And that's where approaching games with a single session narrative idea can help teach people the right priorities for a system, like in yours as well. It's like, don't think about all that other stuff. Problem solve now. And don't think about your build in 15 levels, right? Or something like that, right? It's not about that. It's trying to focus in a little bit more on the immediacy of the game. And that can be tricky sometimes, right?
Totally. If I may extrapolate that for a moment, because I know you have a lot of designers who are around, I think the same holds for game design, where it's so easy to be like, I can't wait till I have my 2,000-page rule set and every single thing I've ever wanted. And
too real.
Tell me about it, right? And you have to start with the MVP, the minimum viable product. And that's what Advent V1 was for me. It was, how stripped down can I get this while it's still being recognizably Enclave?
Right.
And then from there, I can say, okay, now before I just jump into another thing, I need to find if people like it. And I got this wonderful community of awesome people. And I'm like, okay, I guess they like it. Now I can do the next step. And
it's
then
like, guess I better do the next thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I get you on that. Yeah, it's interesting getting to that, say, like quick start or V1 or demo stage, because you got to test early, test often. But once you actually get something out there that is enough for people to play, it's a very interesting experience. Because then you're like, oh, maybe I did make something worth playing after all, right?
Yeah.
When you introduce it to a larger community, that's very interesting.
And you have to detach it from yourself too,
Yeah.
Because that little guy has become a part of you.
Oh, yeah.
And suddenly it's not anymore.
And people might say mean things about it. It's like, no, it's my baby.
Exactly.
Don't you say that about my baby. Okay, let's see here. Survival is usually the backbone of pulp. Oh, that actually is a good comment and a question from BGD. Genre-wise, is Enclave pulpy or like what would you give it as a genre if you had to, right? Because there is a overall structure here, there's a
Yep.
world. What would be genre wise?
So Enclave, I describe as a genre bash game.
Yeah.
Where even though there is a structure to the world, you know, you're an agent of this organization called the Enclave. It explicitly takes place in an infinite world called Manifold. Now, this infinite world has a handful of rules to it, but for the most part, it is completely open. There is no set tech level, there is no set history, there's no set time frame, there's no set genre. And this means not only your characters can come from any background you want, you can reskin and reflavor the classes to be different. You can make you can make the gunslinger not just a cowboy. You can make them a space ranger or something like that. As long as they're mechanically the same, you can reskin them.
But why would you? Cowboy's already perfect. So
right. But the thing that is even more advantageous of this is it means that every time you play the game, it can be in a different setting. Now, some people like to revisit their favorites, but I think it's way more fun to just go everywhere different every time. And none of the player characters have any familiarity with it. So not only are you dealing with this strange, challenging task, but you have to adapt to the new world. And then if your play group is like, "Ooh, I really like that setting," go back to that same setting. That's completely fine. Or if you want to bring in your own existing world building, works great too. So that's why I describe Enclave as a genre bashing game, where genres clash and meet. And reconciling them and exploring new ones is part of what makes it so fun. I once heard someone say Enclave uses the Star Trek model to world building, and I kind of dig that.
It's show up to a new planet today, and what kind of funny ears do they have here, and what's the weird what new thing do we discover today? Kind of
precisely,
idea, right?
Yeah, and what strange land do we have to adapt to?
Now, as far
Twice
as
Dead Mage said, I'm sorry.
I have one more question for you on that.
Please.
Mechanics wise, so for example, when it comes to genre, you have things like horror, adventure, action, suspense. Do you think that your mechanics facilitate a specific narrative genre? Not necessarily like is this sci-fi or western or what have you, but like, do you think that the mechanics serve a particular type of play genre in particular?
I'd say they serve a tone.
Mm-hmm.
And the tone is drama.
Okay, gotcha.
Because, for example, no HP. You're very vulnerable.
Yeah.
We have a lot of mechanics that reward strong attempts and like effort put into character acting.
Right. Yeah, leaning into it. Yeah.
You have the mechanic where you're going to die unless you can ping out. Drama. The episodic structure, you have to have a lot happen. There's no travel time. You get into the action fast. Drama. So I'd say it's a game that lends itself very well to drama, but everything else is kind of retoolable and customizable.
Yeah, I get
and
you.
Also, each class is based in a strong archetype, right? A strong trope. And even though you can easily reskin and reflavor and kind of put spins on it, the classes kind of inform a baseline for the character's genre and therefore the player's experience, which in my experience is kind of the most important thing.
Yeah, like the gunslingers communicating a vibe immediately. And obviously, I was scrolling through and I just stopped. Like, well, I don't need to keep reading any more classes. Found the one I'm going to play. But like they do articulate a vibe, but it is just a starting point. Like so many things can be customized.
Yeah.
So yeah,
like Carl said in chat, what genre is this? Yes.
Yeah. Yes. So now let's go back to Twice Dead, who had what was the biggest roadblock of making Enclave? Now, Twice Dead Mage, there's a couple ways that question could be interpreted. So there's the design of the game, and then there's making it into a product. So maybe let's tackle both.
Sure.
If you wouldn't mind, Robby, just walking us through both of those.
Yeah, my pleasure. So the biggest roadblock in the design of Enclave was, like I said, we had this kind of pre-alpha thing going on. I got too stuck in that, way too stuck in it, where I was like, I couldn't conceive of the game beyond this small group with no written rule set where, we had all these awesome stories, all this awesome lore that was all baked into it. And when I said to this group, hey, I'm going to be making this, kind of stripped down version of very stripped down version of the game. I'm going to try to publish it.
Right.
The first response was, well, you're not going to make us play it, are you? We want this version. And I was like, please.
Free me.
So I had to start from scratch. I had to completely leave that old group. And I think that that can be a serious problem when you are developing before that product is extrapolable, right? Before you can mass market that product, just make sure you don't get too attached and too invested in how it looks in that workshop phase.
Right.
Like I would never have admitted it was in the workshop phase during that time, even though it was absolutely in the workshop phase. And I've changed a ton since that time. And that's entirely like a social problem and a me problem. And maybe it's not going to apply to you guys.
It's a good lesson to learn, though, right? That's a good one for
one.
other designers to listen to. It's so easy to get trapped in your pre-alpha cycle and just exist there indefinitely.
Precisely, especially if you're like a host first. You know what I mean? And I'm very much a host first.
I get you. So then the part 2 of the question would be is what challenges have you had in making the product and then getting the product out there right now? Because I'll put it back on the screen. Just remind people, Enclave has a Kickstarter campaign running right now. I think it's already in the description of this video, but just in case I forgot, I'm going to post it in the chat really fast.
Thank you so much, Peter. Really appreciate it.
Just because I realized we've already gone over an hour. We'll keep going, but I wanted to make sure those that came a little later. This is an interview that I've wanted to do for a little while now. Robby and I have been circling. But it also is a great opportunity to get eyes on more indie developer products, because that's where all the best work in tabletop is happening right now, is in the indie space, because folks like Robby can make something that Wizards of the Coast would never deem a worthy investment because it's not safe. It's not what they've been making for 45 years, right? They taking risks, making creatively interesting decisions, and breaking molds like that is really good, right? So
I think so too. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's good stuff for the hobby.
But since you have so many designers, I think that, speaking to the actual creation part, it was kind of a weird process for me. That I think is going to be kind of atypical for a lot of experiences. I had my artist locked in 4 years before my campaign.
Nice.
He was a guy I met while I was randomly commissioning for a friend, right? I was getting a birthday present for her, right? And we were all pitching in, and I found this guy, and he was really good. And we got very close, and we started talking a lot. He played Enclave, he adored it, and he was like, "So when are you going to publish it?" And I was like, "Well, I'm working on it."
Publish what?
And he did not ask to do the art. I asked him. I was like, I want you as the artist. I think his name is Greg Taylor. He's at this point, an 18-year game art industry veteran.
Heck yeah. The art is awesome.
He's fantastic. He's so good. And it's very important to have an artist who plays your game, by the way. Make sure they freaking play. Especially if it's weird. If it's more conventional, then that's fine. But if you have a weird game, make sure they play and they like it and they buy in, because then they're going to be what shapes people's perception of your game. And so you need to shape their perception of it first.
Yep. You got to be on that same wavelength as them. They got to see 100%. The world, right? Yeah.
100%. And so I had my artist ready. The hardest thing by far was the first draft of the text. Because again, I'd been doing this for so long. Like you said earlier, you absolutely nailed it on the head. I had been doing it for so long. I was so stuck in my ways, and I couldn't articulate how I did it, right? And so it was laborious and obnoxious, but I finally chugged through. And from there, the editing phase was yet another thing, because I was mostly having to work with people from this pre-alpha group who had very specific ideas of what the game should look like. And I made big changes to it from what they were used to. And they were like, "Well, this is crap." And I was like, "Well, please, I'm trying to work with this here." So I eventually had to source completely blind playtesters who had never tried it before.
Right.
I was like, "Can you please try?"
Part of the process.
It is, yeah.
It's tough.
I will say, once you've gotten through that blind playtest phase and you actually have a little community built around the actual physical product, you're probably good. They can give you everything from there on. But through that first thing, blind playtesting was big. So I'd say hardest thing was the first draft and the initial blind playtesting phase. Hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a good question. I now see that Random Roll Games, hey, by the way, somebody in my community was also asking about the getting like the physical product ready to go. Oh, I've gone down to
Oh,
the videos. I want to go back up to the
yeah.
art. So, what challenges are like what process you did to make the actual draft that then would be for the printers, right? Well, that would be going to the
Mhm.
printers. Like what did she say? Typewriter and bookbinding in your garage, or like what was the like what's your plan and how did you go about figuring that out? And only obviously say what you can. I don't know if there's anything
No, of
about
course,
whatever
yeah. I can
printing
I can be
deals you
quite
have.
transparent
Yeah,
about it
go
if you
for it.
like. I can show like the programs I used even. Um, the program I used to do the layouts, because I did all the layouts myself for V1. I'm going to be doing them in V2 now.
Hmm.
I'm a lot better at it now than I used to be. The first one was pretty amateurish, but it was all right. And I used a program called Affinity, which
Yep.
recently got discontinued, which is such a shame, but it still works. It's like 95% as good as the Adobe suite and is a one-time payment and is cheap. So like there's going to be other alternatives out there. Just Google Adobe Publisher alternatives, and I'm sure you'll find some other good ones. I'm still going to use Affinity just because I know it. Um,
Yeah.
and I'd also recommend using a graphic design program to create the images and the page decorations in isolation, and then export them and then bring them in as images. Don't use like the in publisher tools for creating
Right.
decorations; they suck. Um, and also for graphic design tools, there's a program called Figma. It is a browser-based graphic design tool. I love it. I use it for everything, and it is free, and it's awesome. So definitely use Figma. It is fantastic.
Just to
Um,
show, I'll bring up some of the layouts here. Just to show, like in V1, like this is a very, oh boy, the zoom is being funny here. Like, this looks very professional. This looks solid. It's very
I'm glad you think
readable,
so.
right?
It's all
Like,
right.
I know it. Graphic design is not my passion, and like doing layouts is agony for me.
Hmm.
Um, yeah. So,
You can hire a professional too. But
that's the route that I had to do because I am awful.
yeah,
I'm absolutely awful at it. Uh, but anyway, yeah,
yeah,
like a lot of these products are free or free adjacent. Um,
exactly. Yeah, or like a
yep,
one-time payment. The more
yep,
you can do yourself, the better.
hmm
Not only for budgetary purposes, but also if you decide to take it to a crowdfunding platform, you will have experience with creating the assets for that crowdfunding platform.
yep.
Because God, paying for all that, that would be atrocious. That's like $1,000 easily, if not more. But then for the printing, for my first campaign, I used a local printer that was like 15 minutes away, and it was like
Nice.
extremely expensive for like
Yeah,
what I got. But I
your
mean, that doesn't
margins are going to
matter.
be bad, but that's what you
Margins
do.
suck, but who cares? It's the first campaign. Just get your experience in, and I like barely broke even. Yippee ki yay!
Hey, but you know
But
what? I will
yeah,
say, like from your first campaign, there's a lot of people that don't even break even, right? So we gotta,
yeah,
right? Like there's a lot of people that try and don't and fail, right? And they aren't able to make their product exist in the
totally.
world. So
And
anyway, it's
but that said,
kudos
when
to
you
that.
print,
Yeah.
there's a couple of things to note. Instead of using like a local company like me, I don't know if you've recommended sites like these before, Peter. You'll often hear names like Mixam thrown
hmm
around.
Yep.
I actually would not recommend them. I think they are overpriced. But you also have Printivity, who I would also not recommend. They are overpriced. And then Walsworths. They're actually pretty good. I like them. They mostly do yearbooks and stuff, but they're pretty fair.
Walsworth is who I'm printing with, actually.
There you go. Yeah, I'd say they are the single best American printing company. And the other advantage is they do not have like a real order minimum. I think it's like 100 or something, and you're gonna need that. Um, for me, I am using a Lithuanian company called Standard Impresa.
Hmm.
They have a minimum order of 1,000, but like I'm going to be selling at conventions and stuff even after my
Yeah,
Kickstarter, so I'm going to make
I
use
get
of
you.
those. It's really cheap per copy. And
Nice.
and like the shipping is shockingly not bad if you bundle it. I'm doing multiple books. So if you bundle it, it's not bad.
Right, right,
And here's the key: books aren't tariffed.
right.
As soon as you add one die in with the books,
Yeah,
it's
I would
tariffed.
say game materials are.
Yep,
That's
but
yeah,
books are not.
yeah. It's
So
that's a really
yeah,
good point to make for about like the logistics side here. If you go
totally.
online, those watching at home, if you go online and ask people how to get your book printed, you're going to get a lot of different answers. And there
Yes.
isn't a one right answer here, but be very careful about how you research shipping, taxes, and tariffs.
Bingo.
Very careful, because the answer to those questions will be different for wherever you are in the world, and what type of order you're going to do, the amount of content you're going to make, and what's the content of your game, like of the box.
Hmm.
Definitely be careful with all of that.
Very careful.
Right.
And never charge shipping up front, ever. Shipping always comes at the end.
Yeah, because shipping internationally in particular is volatile currently, right? And so you want to be very
always has
cognizant.
been, always will be too.
Yeah, there's sadly, it's something I see not infrequently, is an indie designer has produced a product and they've earned enough money, say through crowdfunding, but then because shipping changes over time and they charge shipping too soon, too early, the price went up, and now they're on the line, and most likely for that difference, right? So you have to be very careful about those things. Yeah, Walsworth, if you're looking for a US based printer, I've had a very positive experience so far. I haven't actually printed my book yet, but
their customer service is really good.
Yep,
I like them a lot.
I liked being able to meet in person with somebody.
Oh,
there was
hey,
a rep
yeah.
actually near me, which I prefer wherever I can to deal in person with businesses. Because
Same.
Too much of my life is digital, but being able to meet in person and look at their product samples was very big. Now, obviously, the margins, my profit margins are smaller, of course, because, printing in the US. But that was a calculation that I made, right?
Yep.
That works for my
fully agree with
situation, right? And I have to be very careful about, anyway, so do your homework, those watching. But those are the three questions you want to always look out for: the taxes, taxes, shipping, and tariffs. Be very cautious.
I don't know if this is a good time. You please finish your thought first.
And I was going to say, unless you can bind yourself, which would be crazy. Yeah.
Offer that as a high tier, hand bound.
Yeah, I will hand bind it. It'll look terrible.
Something I wanted to quickly throw in, if it's okay, is if anyone has questions about crowdfunding, development, that sort of thing, and you hop onto my Discord server, message me. I'm happy to help. That is open thing. It's important to pass on all the stuff that we learn, because I didn't learn it by accident. I was taught a lot of awesome lessons by a lot of extremely kind people being very generous with their time. So
absolutely. And where would be the easiest way to find your Discord server? Is there a link on your Kickstarter page?
Yes, there is.
Okay.
It's under the Want More section in the table of contents, and it has a picture of a big red portal with the
giant Discord logo. Found
yes.
It. So there is a server there if you do want to talk to Robby more, by the way. I'm not cutting the stream here. Just want to make sure people know.
Yeah, totally.
Definitely go and talk to him.
As a point of interest, not only that, but if you want to try Enclave, you can play V1 of the game for free. We give out loaner copies. And so you can play before you back the project, or you can watch it live. We have people playing pickup games all the time. All sorts of cool stuff. We'd love to have you.
Yeah, that kind of community. I love the grassroots, community-driven way of building these kinds of things. Right, I'm all about it. Absolutely. All right, let me catch up here now on comments.
No one uses GameCraft or says random roll games. Yes, I would recommend not personally, but that is entirely from secondhand word from multiple sources.
Oh, and that reminds me. Something people can consider is print on demand. Like through DriveThruRPG, these are all examples where you aren't required to house your books, right? That service will handle the logistics of printing and sending out your books for you. Couple issues with that, just so people know. One, they take a lot out of the
big
cost
chunk
of the book, big chunk, and you have significantly less control over the quality of your print. It's being produced in different parts of the world depending on where the shipping is going to go out from, and you can do one or two proofs, I think, with DriveThruRPG, but I've heard frequent people say that there are inconsistencies in that print. However, the overhead to you, logistics wise, way lighter. That may be the right path for you, the designer watching this. Definitely weigh those options. Both me and Robby have gone for what's called an offset print, where we're ordering a bunch of boxes of books. I'm going to stick them in a garage or something, right?
Yep, precisely.
To handle ourselves. But that only makes sense if you have the logistic capability to handle that. So
Certainly.
you
Can I throw out a
please
quick
do.
side note that's kind of related to that?
Please do.
If you ever do a crowdfunder of your own, to anyone watching, you may have heard of fulfillment companies that you will print a bunch of books. You'll send them to their warehouse and they will distribute them for you. I would personally strongly recommend not doing that. The reasons for it, obviously, there's going to be reasons why you can do it. Don't let me talk you out of it. But if you are truly on the fence, the downside is, one, they eat 10% of your campaign immediately. That's rough. Second of all, you have no control over quality. Once again, they can pack and ship your books however the heck they want. And even if you might say, well, that's their problem. Actually, it's your problem. It's your brand.
Yeah,
but
yeah, it's your face on the cover, so
yeah,
to speak.
exactly.
Yeah.
And the last thing is they have this beautiful little thing called warehousing fees, where if you don't send out every single book out of their bloody warehouse, they will charge you monthly.
Yep.
And it sucks. And I've heard of people who get bled for thousands of dollars because their campaign didn't perform as well as they wanted. They had a big run that they sent to the warehouse, and then it just sits there and rots.
Yep. There's a lot of hidden fees that come with dealing in physical media. Well, and hidden fees in general, even platforms like Kickstarter, they're taking chunks out of things. And so as let's say you fund on Kickstarter or wherever, the actual money that ends up coming out of that can get reduced drastically the more other people you have to pay. Do you need to pay the warehouse, right? Do you pay these, right? It all can start eating into that. So definitely plan around this if you're going that route. A lot of due diligence is recommended. I have talked to indie designers who have gotten royally screwed because of
usually
these sort of things, a lot of which was outside of their control largely. So definitely worth. Oh, somebody was saying that audio died. Can people hear me okay? How is the audio?
I can hear you okay.
You hear me okay.
Yeah.
I actually have a new microphone. People had complained on my channel for a long time about my live audio being too soft, and I've borrowed a Blue Yeti mic here, and hopefully it's been better. Okay, Blaze says you can hear me. Oh, Blaze, it's late night for you too. Okay, people can hear me. Good. Thank you, Blaze, from all the way from Germany, stopping by.
Excellent.
I'm gonna just really quick, like Blaze has made. I always like to plug Shenacon World Shapers because Blaze has made the most enormous free game ever. It is absolutely insane amount of content, and it's free. It's all web based. Anyway,
cool.
So I like when Blaze shows up. I've played his game several times, and
pretty sick.
Yeah,
good on you, Blaze.
Oh, he's been here for a while. Yeah, I've seen you kind of pop in here and there. Glad you've been hanging. Okay, so we're going to be rounding out this call in just a few minutes here. Anytime, buddy Blaze. Are there any other questions from the chat that we'd like to get through? Otherwise, I'll give some closing thoughts
totally
on this channel. Let's give folks in chat just a moment here.
Absolutely. While we're doing so, I guess it's the goodest time as any to say, Peter, you're wonderful. Thank you so much for taking the time. It is delightful getting to talk to you and also getting to interact with your lovely chat.
Yeah, thank you for coming on, and thanks for reaching out, right? I haven't had the time, honestly, to seek out people to connect with lately.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Because who has the time? But, yeah, so I really appreciated you just reaching out. That's how I'm starting to meet more people, and it wasn't something that I've done historically, but I'm starting to do now, which are these dev live streams. And when kind of talking to my own community, a lot of folks are saying, like, yeah, do more of these. They're really interesting. Get somebody on it and like talk through the design process, as not necessarily a lot of interviews are like that out of the tabletop space, right? Like where we get to like talk about, in some cases, like die resolutions or, how do you design this sort of atypical structure, and all that's been a lot of fun. So yeah, my pleasure having you on. This is a great chance. Also, it's good to have these on when there's a Kickstarter. It's always good to help, with getting eyes on a project. And I know we kind of chatted about this, but congrats on projects we love, by the way. Just
thank you
cool.
so much. That was amazing.
Okay, so looks like people just thanking us. No questions from our end. It's
Yeah,
been great.
looks like we're looking good.
Well, thank you everybody for coming. Like I said, this has been Robby, who is the creator of Enclave, which is a diceless, not only diceless, but it is a randomization-less role-playing game. There is a Kickstarter going right now to fund V2, which is not only a expansion of the core game and a reprint of their core game, right? It's new content plus a V2 of the core content. And it is live right now. There should be a link in the description. I'll update it if it wasn't, but I did post it in the chat. And excuse me, even if you aren't in a position to back these projects, just sharing them with others goes a long way. So much
Absolutely.
of the indie space is word of mouth, honestly. It's grassroots. It's people just connecting with one another and getting exposure out there. Big businesses that use Kickstarter or crowdfunding, they come in with tens of thousands of dollars in ad budget alone, right?
Yep.
They come in already with a huge budget because they know they're going to make several $100,000 or $1 million. And so a big way that people can help indie designers is actually just to mention it to others, right? It goes a long way, even if you can't financially support it. So just,
Beautifully said, Peter.
yeah, thank you. Thank you. Oh, and Blaze, yes. Yeah, I know, Blaze, you and I could definitely hop on a stream and talk shop for a while. And I want to start scheduling these. It's just a matter of my schedule.
Totally.
But,
Kids incoming. Yeah, you hear them
kids incoming.
tromping
Yeah, they're
back.
coming. So, Robby, any other last comments you'd like to make or things you'd like to mention before we close it down here?
Nothing besides. It's been a pleasure. Congrats as well on your Kickstarter. I was following it with great interest and delighted to see what you're doing with it. And as a final thing to all of you, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for humoring my weird game. And if you're interested, not only can you check out the Kickstarter, but we'd love to have you on the Discord. Again, you can try the game for free if you would like. And I'm also accessible on Discord. Send me a DM over Discord if you are a designer and you want tips or resources or anything of that nature.
Sounds good. All right, folks, we're going to close the stream down. Thanks, everybody. I hope you have a good weekend.
Ciao for now.
And it takes a moment.